From the studios of the Department of Communication in Phillipsburg, welcome to Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylveria Jacobs.
Hello and welcome to Prime Minister Talks. I am Sylveria Jacobs, Prime Minister of St. Martin, here on this platform to continue to bring you very important information as it relates to government, its operations, and how it affects you. So today, we're talking a little bit about government administration as it relates to the Civil Registry Department, specifically because this week there were some very interesting developments. A convention was held right here on St. Martin from the Dutch Kingdom. So it included the Netherlands, it included the Best Islands, it included Curaçao, Aruba, and St. Martin. And it was held right here. So all three entities, so the Dutch Caribbean, including the Cos Islands and the Netherlands, all met together to discuss registration. How are our basic registration affecting each other? How do we collaborate? What do we do? And how it makes sense for us to continue to collaborate. So emphasizing the importance of administration is part of what I think the general public needs to know. I've been getting a lot of questions lately about how many people are registered based on that making a difference as to how many seats in Parliament we will have. But that's just one area where it affects us. It affects many, many other areas. So it is very important that all of us as citizens do our best as per the law to ensure that the correct information is in the Civil Registry of St. Martin. It doesn't matter whether you are a citizen or a resident, we must have accurate information so that proper decision making, etc., can be done. Some of the information that is in our system relates to age, gender, as well as nationality. It ensures that you are able to access your driver's license, your ID cards, and births. It registers births and deaths. That is very, very important as we are going through a cleanup process right now, which will help us to have accurate numbers. Too often we're hearing the census numbers versus the civil registry numbers don't add up. And then, of course, there's a group of persons that are also immigrants who may or may not be registered. So we as a country, a growing country, a small island developing state, we have to ensure that all decisions we are making are based on accurate data. Just this week, I took part in a panel discussion that was talking about Rethink St. Martin, hosted by BDO. And I'm very happy to be able to get those types of platforms also, because what came out of that is that data is so important. And we as government of St. Martin have to make all our policies and legislation, all our decisions based on the data that we have at hand. So cleaning up the civil registry is really important to be able to have accurate data moving forward. Basically, the convention that was held here during the past week saw our Civil Registry Department collaborating, talking about ways to enhance, because at the end of the day, when persons move between the Dutch Caribbean and the Netherlands, the transition is seamless. There's a communication platform whereby the information is collected in the same way, and therefore it's easily transferable. So all of these types of registrations must be the basis, the roots upon which we function within our society. So have you ensured that your registration is up to date? When was the last time you checked your registration? Is your street address accurate in the system? And bigger question, did you take part in our census? The registry falls within each of the 6 islands, ensuring that they keep their meticulous recording of personal data of our respective residents. This system is comparable to the basic registration of persons in the Netherlands, which guarantees the smooth flow of information and relieves citizens from the burdensome task of repeatedly submitting the same information, their data, during inter-island or inter-country relocation. So when we move from one island, Curaçao to Aruba, Aruba to St. Martin, St. Martin to the Netherlands, etc. The responsibility for the management of the PIVA, the Personal Information Registration, falls under the of the Registration of Persons Information, RVIG, which plays a pivotal role in facilitating the exchange of accurate and high quality data between the islands and the mainland. So, through this platform, this PIVA platform, we would want to ensure that with the convention recently held, that the challenges that they face, the achievements as well, are properly handled, and highlight that we have a vital role to play in facilitating governmental services, ensuring the smooth functioning of vital sectors such as taxation. We don't definitely want any challenges there, social welfare, and administration. Furthermore, during these weeks, we will focus on collaborating with RVIG and other governmental bodies, both in the mainland and the Caribbean Dutch countries. These bodies work hand in hand to combat identity fraud. Now, we know that that is a big challenge, and enhance the overall security and reliability of the system. So for me, as Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, under which civil registry falls, it is very, very important that we continue to encourage all our citizens to ensure that the data within government system is accurate and up to date. One of the challenges that was highlighted was the deregistration of persons that is taking place with the cleanup of the PIVA system. That is something I want to delve into in the next segment. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. This is Prime Minister Talks.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylveria Jacobs.
It's hurricane season. Are you prepared? Hurricanes are massive storm systems that form over the water and move toward land. Threats from hurricanes include high winds, heavy rainfall, storm surge, coastal and inland flooding, rip currents, and tornadoes. In the event of a hurricane, you've got to know where to go. If you're ordered to evacuate, know the local hurricane evacuation routes to take and have a plan for where you can stay. This public service announcement was brought to you by the government of St. Martin.
Good day. Can I have a box of your best antibiotics?
Good day. Sure. Can I have your prescription?
Prescription? Do I really need a prescription?
Why do you need antibiotics, sir?
Well, you see, I have the flu, and my sister's friend's cousin had the same flu, and he told me to get antibiotics.
I'm sorry, but all antibiotics are only on prescription from a doctor.
Why is it so difficult to get antibiotics here?
That's a good question. Let me tell you. When people overuse antibiotics or misuse them to treat viral infections like most colds and flu, bacteria can become a dangerous superbug.
A superbug? What exactly is a superbug?
Superbugs are bacteria which are resistant to most antibiotics, sometimes to all of them. They can cause untreatable infections. If we all don't stop overusing and misusing antibiotics, these dangerous superbugs will become common and there will be no treatment to many bacterial infections.
Boy, I'll make sure to tell my sister's friend's cousins about this superbug thing. Sounds pretty scary to me.
Yes, it is. Would you like to have some advice? I don't think you need all of them.
That would be great, thanks.
Collectively preventing antimicrobial resistance. This message has been brought to you by the Collective Prevention Services.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylveria Jacobs.
Welcome back to Prime Minister Talks. I'm Sylveria Jacobs, and today I'm talking a little bit about administration, specifically Civil Registry Department. It would have been great if I could have gotten the department heads in here to give you more information. So it's a little bit secondhand, but for sure on our next segment, we'll be able to get them in so that we can delve deeper into this topic. However, in my discussions with both Kathy Snyders and Denise Williams Warner, I must say that I see dedication, I see commitment. The Civil Registry Department is made up of hardworking civil servants who work overtime to ensure that proper information is within our system. I've been talking about the upgrades, the cleanup of our civil registry that's been ongoing. It's intensive. It's very much like going into each citizen's documents. And so that's why it's important that you work along with us and ensuring that your documents are up to date. In going through some of the older documents, what is coming forward is that some people have not responded to the query from Civil Registry as to their correct address. We're still using the postal system. So if you have not ensure that you are living at the address where you currently are and it's in our system, you must come in and make the change. You can do this by going online to book that particular appointment. What the deregistration process is that they will go through the system, and if they haven't had contact with someone over the past 10 years, so they started from, way back, that's where they are busy now going through a process of sending letters out to request updated information. When they haven't heard from that person, then a subsequent letter will be sent. They're given period of time to respond again, and then when a second letter isn't responded to, there's the assumption that the person no longer lives there and they are then deregistered. Sometimes at a later date, the person's come in for some other service and figure out that they've been deregistered. Of course, that's a shock for them. But again, it's the responsibility of each citizen to ensure that the government administration has the correct information about you. The same information will also be used by the tax office and the other offices once we get our digitalized program up and running. This way, it's seamless, it's a one-stop shop, and you only have to go once. So when persons find out that they are deregistered, then they now have to have proof that they are living at the particular address, and the process can then restart to have them registered again. Another challenge with deregistering persons is persons who may have passed away in another country. The Civil Registry Department have no way of knowing that unless the family members of said person brings in the official death certificate so that the information within our system can be updated. It is very disconcerting, I can imagine, to receive mail for someone who's no longer with us. So do help us to do that. We've done some queries with our sister islands, of course, Aruba, Curacao, within the Netherlands, etc. And we're able to share that information with each other based on our connected systems. But if persons pass away in another country that is not related to the Netherlands and the former Netherlands Antilles, so Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, Saba, Statia, and the Netherlands, it's very difficult to track. So again, responsibility and accountability here lies with family members as well as the persons themselves. As long as you're alive, don't let us make those assumptions. Respond to the post that will come your way. I'm even having discussions with the Civil Registry in terms of how can we find other ways of communicating to people of St. Martin, because we're moving towards digitalization. So it's good and interesting that we also have contact information, phone numbers, email addresses, and the like, so that if there's a change or of address, etc., that we can still find you. It's very, very important. Accurate data leads to accurate decision making. Sometimes people get confused. In the past, we used to say census office, and for the last 10 years, 12 years, we've been talking about Civil Registry Department. So what used to be called the census office is now termed the Civil Registry Department. And there we are just basically talking about registration of personal information for every resident on the island. That includes everyone, whether they are Dutch nationality or not. From this information, we get birth certificates, we get death certificates. We also provide the information that is then at your tax office. You need a registration form for almost all transactions on St. Martin. So whether you're going to get a bank loan, whether you have to apply for a job to prove that you live on the island, or even whether to get your children registered in school, etc. So having proper and up-to-date information within Civil Registry is key. So now when we talk about census, census now is a survey that is done by the Ministry of TEAT. The Ministry of TEAT has been busy with the execution of the survey. The census, it should be finalized by now, and hopefully by the end of June, we have the results. Why is a census important? The census gives us information not just about who lives there, but also the gender of the persons, the family makeup, the household income, how many persons live in the household, the community where they live. Are there sufficient, for instance, schools for the amount of children that live there? Are there sufficient areas where you can buy food, so supermarkets and basic goods within the area? So participating in a census helps us and gives us the type of data, as I mentioned earlier, to take the decisions to change policies. Do we have more seniors? Do we have to have accessibility for seniors? Do we have to improve on the schools within that area? Do we have more children with special needs? Do we have more persons who need maybe doctor offices in that area because it's a larger population? Some other decisions that need to be made are policy decisions as well as infrastructural decisions. So changes to the road, changes to the buildings, what else is needed in terms of legislation to improve the quality of life of the people in a particular district. The Social Economic Council, SER, actually uses the data from the census to be able to advise government. So if you haven't taken part in the census, it is imperative that if you still have that opportunity, that you do so, because your information will then count towards all of the decisions that we make as a government. Decisions that impact your life, impact your children's life, as well as the types of services that we can give to the most vulnerable in our community. I've been hearing the cry of those who are on radio and on Facebook, but it is imperative that you register. We're also building information in our social registry, which is under the Ministry of VSA. And through these collaborative efforts of all the different organizations and departments within government, we are then able to make the necessary decisions that will lead to a better quality of life. We're running out of time in segment 2, so for more information, come back. This is Prime Minister Talks.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylveria Jacobs.
The Civil Registry Department brings you a message on updating your information in the basic administration.
Did you know, as per the Ordinance on Basic Administration, all citizens have the right and obligation to request corrections on their personal information? This is done by submitting source documents. What are source documents? A source document can be any of the following: a birth certificate, a marriage certificate, a divorce certificate, an acknowledgement certificate, a death certificate, adoption certificate, court decision, or a valid residence permit. The identity of the person must be well established by having the following: an identity card issued in the Caribbean Netherlands and Aruba, a valid passport, or a driver's license issued within the kingdom. Persons born outside of the Dutch kingdom may need additional source documents such as a deed poll or affidavit. Depending on your country of origin, all of the above documents must be originals, not older than 3 years, and may require legalization by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Dutch Embassy, or with an apostille stamp. Translations are required for documents that are not in the Dutch or English language. No laminated documents will be accepted. Persons must appear in person. Processing takes 1 week. Please feel free to contact the Civil Registry Department for more information. Swaliga Road, number 1, Phillipsburg, St. Martin. Call us at 542-0652. Send us an email at burkazaken.sxm@stmartingov.org. You can also visit our website at www.stmartingov.org. Civil Registry, back office services to view all our requirements.
This public service announcement is brought to you by the Civil Registry Department.
Prime Minister Talks with Honorable Prime Minister Sylveria Jacobs.
So when we started this program, we were talking about the PIVA system. We were talking about the importance of having correct data. And we talked about how this impacts elections. And that was the main question that was being asked. In the previous sections, I went into all of the other reasons why it was important for us to have accurate data. And now, of course, I'm going to touch on what So many people want to know about elections. Our registry determines our elections based on who is registered in our civil registry. And the number that we have now is 58,477. That's the latest as of this week, in the first week of June. And that would mean that our number of seats for Parliament remains at 15. I was explained that for it to move to 17, we would have to have 61,000 persons registered or more. So as the cleanup continue, when people continue to register and leave and come, that number will fluctuate. And then later on, closer to the election is when the actual cutoff will be, and then we will know exactly how many seats will be. But as it stands, as of now, in the first week of June, we have 58,000 persons registered, and therefore we remain at 15 seats. The cleanup remains ongoing, and it is important that we have accurate data. So once more, make sure that your information is accurate by checking with with civil registry. Even I still go back to the old ways of saying things and ensure that accurate data is there. Now, why is this information important for voting? Each voting district is broken down, and then they will have the persons who are eligible to vote pulled out and create voting cards that will be sent to persons. The great risk of not having the correct address is that you would not get your voting card. This is your voice to be able to express your opinion about how your country should run. And we have had at least a stable government for these past 4 years. We've done a poll, so to speak, a survey on what the people think about elections and what should be changed. And we're looking forward to having the public discourse on that. But if you do not open your mouth, if you do not put forward your opinions, then government is taking decision based on what we think. That's why I think surveys, census, and all these types of ways in reaching the public is so very important. We are your voice, yes, once elected, but during the process, it is our duty to continuously come back to you, to hear from you and understand where you stand on these things. And I know we have lots of strong opinions where elections are concerned. Right now, we have a parliamentary system which elects 15 members based on parties that are registered. There is legislation that mandates how parties have to register, how they have to report, etc. And then once elected, the top vote getters, based on how many seats a party has won, the top vote getters in that number will then receive a letter stating that they are elected to Parliament. And that's when the changes happen in terms of who sits in Parliament and under what umbrella. And I think that's where we need to continue to strengthen ourselves, to remain united, to remain as one in the party with which you ran. The people of St. Martin go to the campaigns, they listen to what you have to say based on which party you are with. What our survey told us is that they're looking at individuals. So I'm appealing to individuals who are going out there and asking for the public support. Choose parties that you can really align yourself with, because that gives the person giving the vote to you and your party, because a vote for that person is also for their party. So you must be able to see yourself within the representation that you have, ensuring that your voice can be heard as a collective, as the individual who has voted, but still as a collective, thinking on what is best for all of the people of St. Martin. I have seen during my tenure here that we still have a tendency of maybe wanting to come to the government building also for everything, while so much of the products over the past couple of years, especially since COVID, we accelerated to get a lot of our services online. So I encourage you to go online, visit government's website, visit our pages to see what services you can get without actually coming into the government building. We're actually fast forwarding with our digitalization program, the DGTP, under the Trust Fund, where we are aiming as Government of St. Martin to have a complete digitalized e-government. This means that we will be a one-stop shop. This means that the information that you have in civil registry will become the core information that is shared with everyone. This is why it is so important that accurate information is in the system. When you hear them talk about clean data and dirty data means not all of the information is accurate. And we want to be able to transition into a fully digitalized government with clean data. We see the challenges with cybersecurity, and if there's one thing off, then the information is inaccurate and then it cannot be used. Our tax administration, our social registry, our civil registry, all of these have to be connected so that we can give good service to the people of St. Martin. In closing, how can people of St. Martin assist us in keeping our administration clean? Please ensure that all identification documents are valid. Make sure that your passports, your identity card, your St. Martin identity card, your driver's license, are all giving the same information and are up to date. Don't wait until 2 weeks before you have to travel to look at your passports to see if they're valid. Always know 6 months in advance when things are expiring to ensure that you can do so as soon as possible. Civil Registry also gives emergency services. So if there's an emergency, there is an emergency number that you can call as well. Verify that your address is correct so that when the time comes for services to be had, including sharing of and the distribution of your voting cards, that it is going to the correct address. Verify your marital status, whether you are married or whether you are single. Persons who have died abroad, family members are encouraged to come in and update the certificate of death with the legalization for processing in our basic administration. If you have left the island and if you've returned, it's also imperative that you re-register so that we have an accurate count of who we are and who we're serving right here on St. Martin. I hope this program has been enlightening to you. I know it's not necessarily an exciting topic, but it is a very necessary one so that the decision making can take place in an effective and efficient manner. We have our role to play as administration, but you, the citizens, have a very important role to ensure that your information is accurate. So I challenge you to go out there and check your information in the coming weeks to ensure that all is clean within the Civil Registry of St. Martin. Do have a blessed weekend further and enjoy the rest of the month of June.